Superbooth 22. I'm here on the booth of Teenage Engineering with William from the, let's say, education side.
Education, support, a little bit of sales, a little bit of everything.
And with Jens, the developer, and the developer of the OP-1.
Yes.
And I think we are in a quite interesting area here. We are in the caravan.
Yeah.
Always surprising your ideas for presentations.
Yeah, this is...
One day in a motel, I remember the time I was at NAMM 2020. There was the presentation with Tobias in the motel.
Yeah.
And this time in the caravan.
Yeah.
You have a new OP-1,
Yes.
but for me now a bit more interesting is to see with Jens, the developer, there's a quite big history behind the OP-1. Because it's a long time success story that you have on the market already. It was initially released in?
I think it was 2011 when it was when we started selling it. But we showed it first, I think, 2009 or 10 in the Music Messe in Frankfurt. But then it was an under glass prototype. With only listening samples.
So 12 years already?
Yeah.
Wow. And what was the initial idea of it? Because I think many people think it's a synthesizer, or it's a groove box, or it's a production hub. Or what was your, when you start developing it, what was your main idea to develop?
We had the form factor, which Jesper, our designer, did like a physical prototype. And we found this great little OLED display and the CPU and the electronics, and we realized we could put it all in one box. And we had all kinds of ideas, but we realized what we could do feature-wise, and that it could be like a synthesizer, drum machine, multi-track tape recorder in one package. Battery powered, so it really grew as we developed it, and like.
And you always wanted to be a portable,
yes.
Or mobile, yeah. And from the synthesis side, I can imagine there's a lot of work on the hardware side and the software side. Do you think what was the side that put your more efforts or more time in it? Was it the hardware design, or later more the software?
And the electronics. I think it all glues together, because since we did everything in-house, we worked very tight together. The design, hardware, electronics and software. So it's hard to say. Of course, software perhaps takes more time to develop, but I think we were only three programmers at the time.
So you grew up as a very small company, and then from the synthesis side, there's so many cool synthesis engines inside the OP-1. Is there any you had some let's say products from the past? You said, oh, this could be some ideas we can put inside the OP-1, or for you more, let's take a new direction and let's make it completely new without imaginations of a synthesizer from the past or so?
It was a mix in the OP-1. I mean, we had the FM synthesis, which is well known and something from the past, and we had like Dr. Wave, which was a unique synthesis made for the OP-1. So it was up to the developers to come up with ideas for synthesis models. Yeah.
And do you expected such a success? When you start developing it, and then the first time it was released, that it becomes such an iconic instrument.
We knew it was a big interest in it, because we showed it for 2 years before we started selling it. But it's hard to know if this interest will make people really want the instrument and appreciate it. But we had hopes, but you don't know until you know.
And your units are made in Sweden, yeah, or entirely in Sweden?
No, we manufacture in Asia.
Asia, okay.
Yeah, but in the beginning we made several parts in Sweden, and we shipped back and forth, and we did
okay.
all the final programming and QA in Sweden.
Okay. And from your side, I think you are now a bit younger. How you come to the OP-1? It was one of your first instruments, or?
Yeah, so when I was about 14 years old, I saved up a lot of money to buy the OP-1, which at the time I got a steal of a deal on it on Amazon. And, you know, holding it for the first time, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, I'd seen it across the internet in loads of different videos, lots of different interesting people using it. It always kind of piqued my interest as to what it was, what it does, how it sounds. And yeah, I mean, it's been a journey since then. Obviously I'm here now, but yeah, for me it was the first synthesizer that I owned, the first synth and groove box, and you know, kind of all-in-one device.
Yeah, that's what I before said. I think people always say it's marketed on your website. It's said as it's a synthesizer, but I think it's more than a synthesizer. It's a groove box in an all-in-one device. And I think I really love to hear the last update you did with the USB interface. That was already a bit a teaser. Huh? When you looking now back, this could be a little teaser for this one.
It was, and it was also a consequence of what we did for the OPC, that we released the USB audio, and I realized that we actually could do that on the OP-1, and it would be a reasonable effort, and I thought people would appreciate it. So we did it.
And what from your side, because you come from the education side and more a newcomer, was something for you so special in the OP-1, or was more the workflow said?
I think for me, I found the workflow actually quite difficult to navigate personally, because of me coming from a background of sequencing and DAWs where I solely worked in MIDI. So coming into the OP-1, I was like drowning in fresh water, you know. But yeah, I mean, I took it more from the approach of it being a synthesizer than being something to record on. And we'll get into it in a little bit, but the OP-1 field, to me, I find it so easy to record on. It's kind of strange because I found it really hard to make music on the OP-1, but on the OP-1 field, and I've said this to the developers as they've been sending out beta firmwares and updates, that it just feels natural and it feels like an extension of my brain. I don't know. I don't know how to put it. It's really nice.
Find really nice in the OP-1 is that you simplify the synthesis. There are not tons of parameters available. Was that something you had in mind during the development, or was
we really wanted to be direct? Like, we have the knobs and the buttons, but whenever you turn a knob, it should do something meaningful, and you shouldn't get lost in an interface of menus and too many knobs. So that was a challenge, for example, with the synthesis. Like, even if there are several underlying parameters in the synthesis, how do we make the knobs control those in a meaningful way?
Especially with FM synthesis, for example.
For example.
Because FM synthesis can be layered with operators, and so making it then very easy is quite a challenge.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to create sounds on this than like on a DX7 if you're not really into.
And then the time it's this big success, the OP-1, and then it came this thing with the display that you change it and you re-engineered part of it to make it fitable for the display, and now you have the OP field.
Yeah.
It's next generation, or how we would call it, or an evolution of the OP-1.
Yeah, we really felt it was time to take some of the ideas that we had that didn't fit in the existing OP-1, and we also got the opportunity to make a custom display that would actually fit perfectly
Okay.
in this slot. So we did that, and then it all started the process of redesigning the keyboard module and the chassis, and so it turned out into a new design.
This is what the people always wanted, the OP-2. So basically, it's the OP-2 but named OP-1.
I think it's an OP-1, but it's better in every way I can think of. So if for something to be an OP-2, if there is such a thing, that would be something really.
So and the original one had an entire white chassis, and this one it had now is the look is also different. Chassis. So it's made of aluminium, or?
Yeah, the old one was also aluminium, but powder coated in grey. Now it's sandblasted aluminum, and we have the keyboard mounted in a slightly different way, and it's a new keyboard, all new keyboard module, and also there's a plastic cover here with the bass port under. So we really wanted to improve the speaker, the built-in speaker.
Is it the weight is the same, or is it more or less?
We haven't measured. It feels.
I think it's slightly lighter, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe considerably lighter, thinking about it.
And the keyboard, because it was always something I really enjoyed, this keyboard feeling of the OP-1. Is it a new one, or is it the same, or is it improved? Or?
It's a new one, and we tried to keep the feel of the old one because we were really happy with that. But there are the shape of the keys is slightly different, and the knobs are different, and if you start looking into details, everything is different.
And because you said you created this one now because it was time, and there was things you couldn't put it in the actual one, or what was the missing points you would say it's missing, or you want to put in but it was not possible?
First, we started to run into production issues because since it had been in production in 10 years, some components started to go out of production, but also we wanted to do things like improve the audio output and input. We wanted to do a USB host. We wanted a bigger battery.
It has a USB host?
Yes, we've got a USB-C port, and so it can act as a USB MIDI and audio host.
Okay.
So you could actually put in a small sound card if you like an external output or input, or you can put the OP-Z into the USB port, straight into the USB-C port, and get the audio into the OP-1. So it opens some
interesting doors, yeah.
Yeah. And also we got the FM receiver and also transmitter. So I start to go into the area that you will show. But we saw all these small things that we wanted to do and improve that really needed a new revision of the hardware. And once we decided to do that, it opened like
Was it also a hardware limitation? We said that you couldn't add more synthesis in it or more.
I guess we could have done another synthesis or so, but this, for example, we couldn't have stereo samples and stereo tapes, and now we have multiple tapes, so we needed more storage, more memory, and slightly more processing power.
Okay, so you are using probably a different CPU here.
Yes.
Do you reveal? Is it an?
It's
It's
nothing like super fancy. It's a new revision of or improvement of the CPU we used in the old one.
Okay. Because you said more memory, so it has more internal memory, or
Yes, and more storage.
so what we are talking, what kind of amount we are talking now about the memory?
It's 4 times the
4 times
memory
more?
of the original.
And then the numbers is gigabyte or?
No, RAM it's 256 megabytes.
Okay, but there's no option now still for added micro SD card or something like this.
No.
So it's everything is internal.
Everything is internal.
And this was also a decision to make it only internal, or because I see micro SD could be useful for exporting stuff, or
Yeah, it
or it may, or is it then probably a hardware decision to make it?
yeah. I mean, if we select the internal storage, we control the performance of that storage.
Okay.
So it can be tricky with the SD card to make sure that it performs as well as you want.
So so easy to say you have everything in your hands,
Yes.
and not because micro SD card could cause errors and.
Yeah, I mean, we try to think of other ways to import and export your work instead.
Okay. Talking about the engine, because it's your field also.
Yeah, I'm not. I haven't written so much of the DSP code and the engines. My field of work has been more in the system design and the low level things.
So a user who you're using the OP-1 and now the OP field, it feels like the same, or do you think it has more richer menu from the workflow of it?
The workflow is the same, but there is, I think, well, you said that when you got used to the OP-1 field, going back to the original OP-1,
It's impossible.
yeah,
Yeah.
So it's like an evolution. So there are small differences in like every area that together makes it really
Special.
yeah
Yeah.
a big difference.
Okay. And synthesis side, I read, because I read a bit of it this morning. There's a new synthesis engine inside, yeah.
Yeah.
So you put what kind of synthesis are you using now, and is this new synthesis based?
Yeah, perhaps we can move over to the
Yeah.
to show a bit about what's new.
Yeah, so on the subject of the new synthesis engine, this is Dimension. It's our new synth engine in the OP-1 field, and it's sort of like a virtual analog style synthesizer. So it's got 6 different wave shapes, ranging from noise to noise, but going across various different shapes. So I'll start at noise so that you can hear it and move up to noise. So that's the kind of spectrum of sound that you get out of it. And on top of that, it's got a stereo spread. it's got a filter, super nice, very resonant filter, if you want it to be resonant, otherwise it's very tame with a low resonance. So I guess I can show you the resonance. So. So, as you can hear, it's quite an impressive filter, and that kind of comes into the analog characteristic of it. A good filter makes a big difference. But on top of that, you can hear that the waves are really nicely shaped. Super round when they need to be round, and super sharp when they need to be sharp. So I think it's a really great synth engine, and it really stands out from a lot of the sounds that you heard on the original OP-1.
Is it inspired by something from the past, or is it more you take a modern one, or is
I mean, it's
flavored from the flavors you get from this VA?
Yeah, I suppose it's sort of 80s polysynth type flavors. I mean, think something like a Juno or a Jupiter, or something big but not complex.
And how much polyphony you can get?
I think that's one thing.
Yeah, I think it's 6 voices.
6 voices.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, it sounds really great. I hope you get to hear it properly through the sound system.
How many? One oscillator or some multiple oscillators?
It kind of depends on where you are on this. I don't know exactly the numbers, but you can kind of hear that there's some sort of slight phasing going on between certain oscillators. I don't know the exact science behind it.
And so besides this VA engine, you get anything new or something new from?
Yeah, so there's also a new effect. So a lot of our users really wanted a good, nice reverb. So we made it, and it's in the OP-1 field, and I think it's a pretty nice reverb. So let me see if I can load up a preset for you with some nice reverb. It's called Mother, and it's got 4 controls: distance, gate, colour and mix across the knobs. So if I turn up the distance, we can hear it at its max, and I'll keep the mix around 50%. So you can hear it's got a really long tail. And then equally, if you go right the way down, it's a super nice room reverb. So mix that with the gate. Yeah, super nice, right? So it's a really versatile reverb. I'm showing you the extreme ends just so you can get a sense of it, but it can do everything in between.
And so we get a new VA engine, a new reverb, and there's more?
Yeah, absolutely. There's multiple tape tracks. So another request that we had from users was, I've written my song, I like it, but I want to go off and work on something else and then come back to it. How do I do that? Well, with the old OP-1, you had to back it up to a computer, take the tape off, create a new tape on the OP-1, and then start over, and then bring it back if you wanted to work on it again. Whereas here, we've made it so that you can have, I think it's up to 6 tapes?
Yep.
Yeah, so you can have up to 6 different songs of 6 minutes in length, 4 tracks, on the unit, which is really nice because you start working on something, maybe you like where it's going, but you want to work on something else. You don't have to get rid of it, and you don't have to work on the same timeline even. You can create something completely different, and then come back to it later if you want to. And that's something that, as someone who produces music, it's quite nice to have that ability on the OP-1, because you can take it with you anywhere, and you don't need to be limited to working on one thing at a time. You can work on 6 things at a time, more even if you so wish, like backing stuff up, obviously, and working in different ways. On top of that, we also have 4 different tape emulations, tape and disc emulations, I should say, and so that varies from Studio 4-track, which is clean, DAW quality audio, all the way to something like the micro cassette, emulation, which is super crunchy, really nicely saturated, and gives a completely different tone. So those four are studio 4-track, vintage 4-track, a micro cassette, and mini disc. So they all have their own sort of vibes, I suppose. Especially for those lo-fi producers out there, they're going to really love these.
And on the sequencing side, also all this, do you have something new, or is there further on the engines what you added? Is there more to discover from when you are now an OP-1 user?
Yeah.
I say, for example, can I get my sounds from the OP-1 in the new OP-1? It's just straightforward. So the presets are
drag and drop.
Drag and drop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds the same.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah, definitely better.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the
same but better.
Yeah. One of the really big differences is 32-bit audio and 44.1 kilohertz. It makes a huge difference having stereo and higher quality audio. Samples sound better, presets sound better because the synth is outputting at a higher resolution, and the tape sounds better. So all the way across the audio chain, it just sounds fantastic from start to finish. And then to your point of, for an OP-1 user coming to the OP-1 field, it's small things, as Jens said, small things that make a really big difference. So, for example, with a lot of the engines, there were controls, but sometimes you don't know what the controls were doing. So like the FM engine, you turn a knob and it's not necessarily the case that you actually know what you're changing. But now, it comes up with a little pop-up. So if I show you here, as you turn the knob, you can see exactly what you're changing, which is super nice because from a sound design perspective, you can get to exactly where you want to be if that's what you want to do. If you want to explore, you can avoid that, and you don't need to look at it or understand it to still create really amazing sounds. But if your goal is to specifically sculpt one sound, in certain engines we've made it super duper easy to achieve that point because, it's an FM synth. You should be able to see the detune and the model that you're using and the frequency and the topology.
So it's a really major overhaul of the complete engine.
I mean, I wouldn't say a major overhaul, but they definitely sound better, and the visuals of them tend to be a lot clearer.
Okay.
So from a usability standpoint, it's a lot clearer what's happening in a lot of the stages.
You said you manufacture now, you have your own display. Is it a bit bigger?
Yeah, slightly bigger. It fills out this area better, and it's higher resolution.
Okay.
Compared to the.
I see there's also a speaker. So is this the same or?
No, it's a custom speaker module with a passive radiator in the back. So we get slightly louder and more bass.
Okay.
Yeah,
so.
It's loud. It is really loud. I mean, it's obviously not like PA loud, but when you're sitting in your room or your studio or wherever you happen to be and sit down to make music, the speaker on the unit makes a big difference. It's again another thing that you'll notice when you pick it up and turn it on for the first time is that you press a key or a bass note, for example, and the unit vibrates in your hand and you can really hear it. Whereas with the OP-1, originally, you press a key and oftentimes it can't represent the bass sounds. So it's a really, really big difference in terms of actually making the music. It's a lot more usable without a pair of headphones, which is really nice because you just pick it up, turn it on, and you're going. You don't even need to grab any other kit. Unless you want to, of course, in which case you can, because it can do all sorts of crazy stuff.
We now saw a lot of new stuff in the engine. So will the users of the OP-1, of the regular one or the actual one, benefit from few of these features, or will be exclusive to the new OP-1 field?
I mean, some things that we do here, or many things that the OP field has, can't be ported to the OP-1.
Okay.
So we'll see what we can do. no promises, but I mean, I love the OP-1, and if there's an opportunity, it would be really cool to do something.
Okay, the OP-1 field, is it available already, or is it coming?
It's available for order, and delivery starts. I mean, our manufacturing is running, so we deliver.
Deliver and ship.
Yeah.
As it comes, it goes.
So you're not only announcing, you're also delivering.
Yes.
The price is, I think, there's a big difference to the regular one.
Yeah, I mean, and people seems to sometimes react on that, but I mean, in many ways, it's more expensive to make a small device compared to a large device, because you have to custom make everything, and that costs money, and also the prices for our components and all parts. I mean, aluminum has gone up. The price of aluminum alone has gone up like 30% each quarter for the past year. So we want it to be available, but we also have to cover the costs. So that's the.
So will it arrive to also to the big stores, or is it now for the start only from your website?
Once we get the supply running, it will be available everywhere.
Okay, perfect. Honestly, when I watched first the announcement via press today, I say, okay, it's only an update, but if you really see it in real, it's a different instrument. It's different OP-1.
Yeah.
Because the design is really, it feels different. It's really different design.
Yeah, and we hope we will keep it running for 10 years.
Another 10 years.
Yeah.
This is the next 10 years. And I think in terms of difference, it couldn't be more different without being more similar in a way. It's familiar but different in so many ways that it just really pulls you towards it.
And it's good to hear that that the workflow remains the same, so existing customers can get don't need to rethink about their workflow. They can continue working in the same way.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jens. Thanks, William.
All right.
Thank you.
I wish you a good Superbooth 22 because it just started the first day. And hope to see you again in the next videos. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.